Hello. Can you hear me now? Yay, okay. Wasn't a complete fail. But anyway, how is everyone doing tonight? I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're having fun today. I hope you've had a good day, filled with good pranks and fun. You know, absurdity and whatnot. It was all right. I actually had a pretty good day. Raven and Ghost did like a 6-hour, April Fool's Day, stream, which was fun. It's always fun. They have these fake sponsors, Iron Scale Protein, made from real fish scales. It's not enough protein in fish scales to make that worth it. I'll say that right now. We actually kind of looked into it last year. Probably, well, if you're just using the scales, I don't think there's any mercury or of any amount in the scales themselves. Like, you're not using the fish. You are literally just using the scales. That's the joke. That should be basically the fish equivalent of keratin, which I don't really know what scales are made out of. But anyway, I actually thought I'd talk about something a little bit more serious, but hopeful. At least to start, and we'll see where it goes from there. So, today, something huge happened. Something that hasn't been done in... I honestly can't remember when. Probably not in my lifetime. We're going back to the moon. Literally, a rocket took off today to send people to the moon. Artemis 2. And there was no big problems. Everything went smoothly. And I think that's an important step that we needed to take for generation. Well, a generation. We needed to go back to the moon. Everybody started talking about Mars and all of this, and it's like, we need a fueling station. And a International Space Station isn't really worth... It's not going to make a good fueling station. You need something that's a little bit more permanent, that doesn't require the tons of maintenance. So we should put some kind of base on the moon. Not only... it doesn't have to be manned. I mean, we've got plenty of like drones, robots, stuff like that could manage raw material for, go to the moon, then Mars. First we should conquer the moon, so to speak. I'm not saying, it's like, it's ours. I'm saying that before we go to a whole ass another planet, maybe we should do something with our own satellite. So that, it's only like, what, 1/6 the gravity of Earth? 1/16? I can't remember exactly. Because I think it's 1/6. Either way, the point I'm trying to make is that the moon would make more sense to see if we can even do it. I mean, we could literally launch a rescue mission if something happened on the moon in short order. And with SpaceX, we would actually have the space trucks, so to speak. Because while NASA is really good at some things, SpaceX actually, as much as I hate to admit it, has reusable rockets. They've got that down. They could supply raw materials to a base on the moon. You could literally program drones to build yourself a rocket to lift off from the moon. You don't have to have it survive taking off from Earth, which is huge amounts of waste in rocketry. Like, I don't think people really understand how damaging it is to a rocket to just leave Earth, let alone the amount of fuel. I mean, what is it, 3 stages? Sorry, I'm trying not to. I was trying not to sneeze. Well, yeah, I mean, they could even, they could start a geodome if that's ever even deemed necessary. Like, I mean, within 20 years, we could have a base on the moon, whether it's manned or unmanned, doesn't really matter. And by we, I don't mean Americans. I mean humanity. I think, one, this would position a lot of other countries that may not be able to have a space program at all, because it's really hard to get something into space. It's really expensive to get something into space. And oddly enough, you need a lot of space to get to space. And there's a lot of countries without much space. They can't just build the equivalent of Cape Canaveral because they just literally don't have the room. Whether it's due to mountains, whatever, it's hard. But this would allow them to, when it comes back, there's a lot of stuff also, right? You're hoping it comes back. But with an unmanned something like that, using Elon Musk as, space Greyhound, the Space Hound X. I mean, this is Elon Musk, so it has to have X in there. You could get their astronauts to the ship that they've paid for to be built out here. Not only that, it reduces a whole lot of waste on our end. Because again, getting to space is hard. It's very hard. Regardless of what people may think, I mean, let's just put it this way. Blue Origin, or Jeff Bezos' space platform, hasn't reached space yet. It's gone to the neighborhood, but it always comes back before it actually reaches space. The only microgravity they experience is because they're in free fall, not because they're actually in space. So space is hard to conquer from a planet. I mean, the more you want to do, the more expensive it is. In every sci-fi novelization, whatever, you don't build your space on a planet, your spaceships on a planet. You build them in a space dock. So the best thing we could do, I mean, okay, people talk about a space elevator. Again, I don't think people really understand how hard that is. Like, literally, the logistics of doing that is, well, one, it's just wasteful. It is absolutely wasteful. There are plenty of ways to do it. I mean, you could think of supersizing the Eiffel Tower and just using an elevator, and then at some point it tips the balance and you just start falling into space towards the moon or towards the asteroid that it's anchored to, which would be more likely because the moon orbits it orbits around the Earth at a different rate than the Earth orbits. You need something that's in a literal geosynchronous, so it stays above the same spot. But the reality is that a space elevator, while theoretically possible, we don't generate enough power, money, and all of that to even make that worth our time. Like, it's really not going to work. What we can do is we can have a space elevator on the moon. Because one, it's reduced gravity. So you could literally create a dock to the moon that never even has to land on the moon. So you can even negate that 1/6 gravity or 1/16, whatever the moon is. I think it's 1/6. I really do think it's 1/6. And you can use a mini space elevator from there so that you're at the moon's tipping point. So they're basically in a synchronous orbit between the Earth and the moon so that it doesn't fall back and it doesn't go towards the Earth. You're like in a literal zero field. There's still microgravity, obviously, the further away, the bigger the ship. But you could do something like that on the moon, which negates really how expensive it would be to even take off from the moon itself. Is it Lagrange? Depending on the size and density, there's a whole lot to it. But the simple fact is that going to the moon and building something to help us get to other places. What's up, Ninetails? We're talking about Artemis 2. And what it actually means, or could mean, if we decide to capitalize on it. Which, if you're not aware, Artemis 2 was the rocket that just went up into space to go back to the moon, which we haven't done in my lifetime. You really think that, that the old joke was right? Mankind went to the moon and found out it wasn't made of cheese. We've never gone back. Right? I mean, making stuff on the moon is cool, but how much will it cost to get stuff out there to build? See, and that's the beauty. It would cost a lot less than you might think. I mean, it's still an extraordinary cost, don't get me wrong. But using Elon Musk as the space trucker, his rockets aren't really suitable for space exploration. I wish I could really explain that. But he's more of a ferryman, what he's built so far. He can get massive payloads off the Earth. But he really can't go too much further. But his engineers aren't. What he did with SpaceX, one, he couldn't have friggin' done it. Yeah. Which, funnily enough, didn't he have one of his guys named Chiron? Or Sharon, or however you're supposed to say that? And what you can do is allow him to launch his stuff, raw materials, not finished products. And basically you can launch it, and because, the moon has a very, very predictable orbit. So predictable that 1,000 years ago, somebody could say, in 2030, the moon's going to be here. In 1000 whatever AD or CE, depending on either way, 1,000 years ago, they could go, the moon's going to be here. And within the error of their math at the time, they'd basically be correct. So what we can do is we can launch stuff from the Earth, set it up so that we can detach it and push it and have it intercept the moon and basically use the equivalent of airbag technology because it's 1/6 gravity. It's going to be falling. But as soon as it starts landing, sensors and everything set off the airbags and it just boof. And you can make it pretty gentle, especially if Elon Musk can use the chopsticks to catch his returning boosters. I'm pretty sure we can figure out how to do something similar on the moon, as long as everything's aimed correctly. And like I said, The aiming's pretty simple math. We've been doing this for thousands of years. I mean, if you're familiar with the Antikythera mechanism, it literally mapped the Earth and lunar cycle. Hell, magnetic catches. Yeah, why not? I'm sure engineers are already thinking about this. You know, probably better minds than mine. I'm just saying that there is entire possibilities of what you're capable of doing. And I think Elon Musk technology is perfect for a space truck. You know, you just ferry it into space, drop it off, go back, pick up more goods. It's literally, the more often you do it, yes, there are going to be accidents, just like on the road, just like in the air, just like in the sea. There are accidents. But that's the beauty of when you can do something like that, the more often you do it, the cheaper it gets over time. That's just simple mathematics. And the cheaper you can make it, the more you can put out. So if we can ferry something like that, you can literally have these drone things build a framework, you know, and you have astronauts check in on it every 2 months, 3 months, whatever your building schedule is, while you're getting the materials, and they build another spaceship. That spaceship would take infinitely less fuel to take off even from the moon, let alone if you build like a little moon space elevator thing. I say hi back. It would take so much less to explore from there. Then all you really have to do is get the astronauts there if you're doing a manned mission. If you're doing an unmanned mission, it's infinitely cheaper. Because you can build the satellite and throw it into space from there. And let it do what it wants to do. Satellite, or like our space probes. You know, and then you can catapult stuff from the moon much easier than you can do it from Earth. You know, I mean, this has been the concept of science fiction for 100 years. Give or take. And I never understood why we just stopped. I mean, other than the space shuttle was a pile of crap. The reason why we never did anything more in space, the space shuttle. It was a pile of crap. Because what was Artemis 2 that launched today? Basically the old Saturn V rocket from World War friggin' II, post World War II. It's basically an upgraded version of what we've been using for 80 years. So, I mean, yes, it's one of the most powerful rockets that's ever launched. I'll say that, yes, but it's still basically a Saturn V rocket. The same basic, because that's just how you get off a planet, is that particular shape, that particular thing. You can't make a space vehicle with our technology that we have today and with the money we're willing to spend today on a project like this that's reusable space vehicle. I mean, sure, the space shuttles lasted a long time, but they were super wasteful. I mean, just think about that giant fuel tank it had on it, the big orange thing. That was all fuel. That's what it took to get the space shuttle to space. That giant fuel tank. Once it was in space, it jettisoned it. Same with the 2 boosters on the side, jettison those. I mean, the amount of waste that went into a space shuttle. Like, I mean, Elon Musk isn't the first space dummy, okay? Let's just put it that way. The people that planned, I mean, we're the only ones that made a space plane. America is the only ones. And I think it's because we signed contracts before we realized how dumb it was. If you know what I mean. And it's so damn frustrating because space should have been conquered by now, or at least our nearest neighbor, which is the moon. We should find out. Is it 12 hours or 16 from launch? I can't remember exactly how long it takes us to get to the moon. And I also don't know the numbers for the new vehicle that we're using. But the fact is that it shouldn't take that long to find out they made it there safe. I hope that, I mean, honestly, I haven't been watching space lately because I haven't had much hope. I just haven't really thought of it. I haven't really thought that we were going. Take that for what you will, but that's really, really where my brain was. Is it, what's the point in looking at it since we're probably not going anywhere? And I mean, space really was one of my first loves. The only problem is that I was always too big. And I don't mean just weight-wise, I mean height-wise. I was too big to be an astronaut. You know, just like most of the military occupations, if you looked at the numbers, I was too big for most of them. Like I had a family history of being in the Navy. Over 6 foot, you're really hurting in those bunks because those bunks are 6 foot. They don't make them longer. It's actually how I ended up in the Merchant Marine was because I wanted to do something like that. And I spent my time. I find it funny that, you know, in the news again, we're all talking about the Straits of Hormuz, and I'm like, I've sailed through there twice. For a completely different reason, but I've sailed through there twice. But yeah, I mean, conquering space again, that gets me excited. It should get all of us excited because pretty much every bit of technology we have right now is because of the space program. Computers, cell phones, all of it. It's because of the space program. I mean, our internet is because of the space program. Because they needed a way for Houston control to talk to Cape Canaveral control. It was a problem that needed fixed. Now, I don't know if that's direct link or if it's more of a corollary. But the whole idea of talking back and forth with computers and stuff like that, I mean, it's got to be an outgrowth. The internet has to have come from that. You know, not just radio lines, because radio lines are slow. You need direct link. You know, and then as they got better, you know, satellites make cell phone technology possible. You know, a lot of the technology we use today, touch screens, keyboards, mice, microphones, a lot of this has been influenced by the space program. And I think that's really sad that we just kind of stopped or changed our focus to be something else entirely. And I think that's really, well, like I said, it's really sad. Because we could have been a lot further along had we just, I don't know, tried to be a little bit more peaceful. Because war is what stalled us. I mean, which is funny because the whole reason why we got into space at all was because of war. Because the rockets we were using to blow each other up also happened to be quite useful at getting into outer space. But a lot of people forget that those rockets were invented initially to get us to outer space. the science and math and everything on it was because people were trying to get as high up as they can. Yay, kaboom? Exactly, Infinite, and welcome in. We're talking about the Artemis 2. I don't know how long you've been lurking. The Artemis 2, the first mission to the moon in my lifetime that the Americans have done. Other countries have done it. I think China did a mission, and was it India? I don't remember. Just got here? Yeah. Well, with everybody doing April Fool's Day, April 1st, the mission to the moon literally launched today. So, I'm talking about the space program and how it stalled out in my lifetime. Largely due to Challenger, right? Of all the days to launch. Right. I was going to pet the cat, possibly see if I could get her on screen, but she just kept walking away. So I'm like, fine. Trying to be nice. Meow. I don't know if you guys heard her at all, but she was literally right down by me. But yeah, they decided to launch on April 1st, which a lot of people don't realize launch windows are really a thing. Because the moon had to be in a specific place for where they're going to be to catch up to the moon, or the moon catches up to them. In all actuality, you launch out, so you have to have the right timing for the moon to intercept the moon's orbit. And it makes it a lot easier if you do it that way. Other than trying to catch the moon. Let the moon catch you. It saves gas. But so, I don't think that they thought about, April Fool's Day being in an ideal day to launch for optics wise, but it was probably the ideal day to launch for their windows that they could give it. So I'm not bitching at them too much, and I'm not laughing at them too much. Yes, exactly. It's a cosmic joke. That is perfect, Infinite. The cosmos made a joke on the space program because they made them launch on April 1st. But I'm just excited because if we're actually looking at doing something with the moon, this might mean that we could accelerate space programs rapidly. Like a lot more. Like I was talking about SpaceX with their reusable rockets, which are not suited for long-term exploration. They're suited for short-term up and down. Remember, his whole design philosophy was supplying the ISS, the International Space Station. We know that his rockets are capable of supplying the moon then. Because you can launch and push a truck trailer and have it catch, the moon catch it. Just like we do with our rockets. You can launch that and it could be raw materials for unmanned drones or manned drones, meaning that, somebody's back here remotely controlling the drones, like we did with some of the Mars probes. And we could get them to start building stuff. Whether that's a spaceship to explore further, whether that's just a fuel depot. Having a fueling station on the moon would be brilliant. It would also if we do manned missions to Mars, it would make the possibility of a rescue mission or having something ready to go a lot more viable. Because you could have Elon Musk use Space Greyhound X, instead of, Space Trucker, it's Space, bus. get the astronauts into space, launch them to the spaceship that they're supposed to take to go rescue the people on Mars. It's entirely possible to do it in a relative time. By relative, I mean, I think we're still at like 3 to 6 months to get to Mars. So, I mean, a rescue mission isn't you would have to know what's going wrong or that something's going wrong in plenty of time, if that makes sense. So it's not like, oh, we can just, save them the same day. No. But it also make it viable to send 2 spaceships, one to land, one to orbit Mars, where you have one in backup, one, you could do a lot more is what I'm saying. I don't really know the feasibility of a lot of it, but I know that smarter people than me are thinking about it. And that excites me. And Elon Musk is the only one that's really gotten close. I mean, what did Branson call his? Virgin space? Like, really, dude? That dude's preoccupied by things because everything he names is virgin. Which, whatever. I mean, that's your thing. Let's just say that I think I'm more of a fan of having somebody experienced in a position like that than somebody with no experience. I think anybody that vehemently seeks out entry-level partners, yeah, it's something like that. But I think somebody that vehemently searches out entry-level partners, people that have no experience, have some issues in the bedroom, either with their self-confidence or something, because if you're constantly seeking an unexperienced partner, my guess would be you don't feel confident in what you can do. And that's all. I'll leave that as sanitized as I possibly could make it. That's my true feelings on that. You forgot a T on that. Oh, my butt facts. I know that you meant, oh, my butt facts, but you forgot the comma, which makes that even funnier. Oh, my butt facts. But yes, you are correct. I mean, it's just like, no, I'm not saying, seek out somebody with, but 40 years experience or something like that. I'm just saying that if you're that worried about it, I think it's your problem, not your partner's problem. Now, again, I'm not judging on religious standards. I just don't particularly think that Branson is really worried about religion. I could be wrong. Maybe he was very, very religious. Maybe it has more to do with it. Maybe he's Catholic. Maybe that's why he names it Virgin, because it's after Mary, the Virgin Mother. But I seriously doubt it. But anyway, back to space. I'm just excited because there's also tons of experiments we could do with the help of microgravity, that we could do with the help of also, let alone special alloys that are theoretical. They're called metamaterials, which is a very specific layering of materials. That these metamaterials can have very exotic properties, even though they're made from common materials. Yes. He named his record label Virgin Records was Richard Branson. He also had a cell phone company called Virgin Mobile. He had Virgin Airlines, and then he had Virgin Space Voyages or Virgin Voyages, which was supposed to go into space. Like, he literally, every company he's literally named starts with Virgin. Like I said, this guy seems to be a little bit preoccupied with it. So I'm wondering if he has a few inadequacy issues in the bedroom. Well, of course, it started from his original record store, which was called Virgin Records. And then he made it into a label. You know, or so he says, but I don't know if y'all want to talk about the music industry. And if I do, I will say that I am feeling very happy. I am not depressed at all, and I know how to swim. So if we want to talk about, you know, music industry, I can do that. A&F guy? Oh, Abercrombie and Fitch. Yes. Yes, he does. He also makes me think of the head of Twitch, Dan Clancy. Like, if you put Dan Clancy and Richard Branson next to each other, I may have trouble telling you which one was which. That might be me. Maybe I have a little bit of face blindness, but those two guys look a lot alike. But I also think a lot of rich guys have inadequacy issues. Like, really, I think that it's like imposter syndrome. They've made so much money, but do I really deserve it? I mean, keep in mind that most of these guys have financial counselors. And I'm not talking about somebody that helps them manage their money, but it's somebody that helps them manage their money in a way that's psychological, not financial. They have people that literally tell them in a psychological, sense of therapy that it's okay that they made all this money. If you need a whole division of psychology centered around you being told that it's okay what you're doing to the world and what you're doing to the people that work under you, it might not be okay. There might be something wrong with the way you're doing it. Because if you can take Jeff Bezos. Yes, exactly. It's a strange echo chamber to have. He's a middleman. Originally, Amazon produced 0 products. All they did was ship them. And they put a storefront where people could buy them. How do you become the world's richest man? Even if it was for a relatively short time. How do you build a company off of being a middleman? Well, by overcharging for what you deliver. That's it. You have to overcharge. There is no sane way that you can do your job and make piles of money on it without overcharging for the value of what you get. This is the problem with modern capitalism. It's always about how much the market can handle, not what does it actually cost. Which is why they have to have that strange echo chamber. Which is why they have to be told that it's okay. Which is why they have to have these exclusive parties and possibly private islands so that they actually see I'm of a different breed. I can get away with these things, or I'm above the law. You know, really makes you wonder why a lot of these rich guys buy their own private island. And by private, it means they actually are sovereign territories. Technically. Because they might have to follow certain rules of the territory they're in, but they're the ones in charge of enforcing the laws of the territory on their islands. So it's not like they have police come out. There's actually a few movies. What was it? Blink Twice. That kind of points to this idea. And if you haven't watched Blink Twice, I really suggest you do. Even if I found the ending questionable. Yeah. Yeah, basically. Overall, I will rate that movie at about a 6. It drops 2 points because of the way it ends, but I think that's more because of the way I saw the ending. And I don't want to spoil anything. I'm just saying, so I think that's more of a me problem than the actual movie problem. It is a great movie. I loved it. And now looking at it from the standpoint of certain files being released and a certain island, maybe people were trying to tell us something. Because, I mean, the main premise of the movie is that somebody gets invited to an island and they keep waking up every morning not remembering what happened, other than they had fun in a vague sense, but the bulk of the night don't remember. So be careful if certain things are triggering to you. I will put a warning on there. There is certain triggers that could come up, but it's not illustrated too heavily. Like, they don't dwell on that function of it. It's more about the other side of the story. And I mean, I've been doing kind of a review. Gulliver Travel vibes? Which Gulliver's Travels are you talking about? The book? By Tom Swift? Right, it was Swift. Pretty sure Gulliver's Travels was Swift. Not familiar with where he wouldn't remember. Oh, are you talking about the premise of, you know, certain triggering things happening to people? Okay, never mind. Yeah. There is that. I'm just saying that, you know, also I've gotten far away from space, but who cares, really? I think you guys have never complained that I drift. Yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah, that's right. Yes. But right. Yeah, I was gonna say, then again, you guys have never complained. There's actually a lot of movies that, one, I would really suggest people to watch, especially with certain things coming to light, certain ways things are being done. And I know I've suggested this movie before, but again, you might see it a different way. Boy Kills World. Especially once you realize how many of these multimillionaires have built bunkers, and really think about why that might be. And that's actually kind of funny with everything that's been happening. How was Artemis 2 going to the moon? How did I have to find out about that? By looking at YouTube and seeing NASA's feed, saying we're going to go live at a certain point with the launch of Artemis 2. I hadn't heard the build up to it at all. Like, normally something like this big, you would hear about, especially if you're kind of interested in space like I am, especially when I watch certain YouTubers that I watch. How did none of them even mention it? No, it wasn't just you. I literally found out we were going to the moon this morning when I opened up my feed and the NASA, hey, we're going live. And I'm like, how have I not heard that we're going to the freaking moon? People were joking, that on the NASA video feed, hey, was that the Sora watermark? Sora's been shut down. So maybe that's why NASA had to reappropriate it. But I would say, just like with the original moon landing, and people saying, oh, we didn't go to the moon, or the moon, somebody would call us on it. Pure and simple. We were in a Cold War with Russia. Russia had every reason to call us out if we faked the moon landing. And yet nobody said anything. Not just that, but there was also citizen radio enthusiasts. They could tune in to the broadcasts. They could hear it because, it's beaming from space. And if you're in the proper area, you know what you're doing with a ham radio, you can pick up those signals. Or with a directive antenna or satellite dish, which at the time they were called directed antennas. Think of a parabolic dish microphone. Like, you could literally pick up, and if it wouldn't make any sense to have faked it so expertly that these guys on the ground pointing their dishes in the proper spots where they're told to point, because NASA released that information. And keep in mind, we also had citizen astronauts and a lot less light pollution than we have now. Sorry, citizen, what did I say? I said astronauts. That's not what I meant. Not astrophysicists. Who looks at astronomers? Citizen astronomers with their telescopes. There are plenty of YouTube tutorials, and you can even buy I think you have to buy the app on your phone where you can actually tune it to ham radio signals with the phone with your app. I think. Because a lot of the ham radio enthusiasts now rebroadcast through the internet because they, one, we need to keep it alive. Citizen band radio is a very important function, and I wish more people knew how to use it. Like, absolutely, because the technology is so old that you could probably cobble together, not a great one, but a decent one with scraps. Like, war-torn areas could literally report, even if they're cut off from the internet. Using ham radio signals, they could report from areas that have been completely cut off. It just really depends on the raw materials if you understand how to build them. I mean, you just need copper, a crystal, and metal. Really, that's all you need. Now, it's not going to work very well. Yes, it was used in The Man in the High Castle. But I mean, depending on the quality of the materials you have, depends on the quality of what you get. So, I mean, it's entirely possible. Morse code is not as hard as you might think. I mean, what? You have to learn 36 symbols or sounds. Because we have, how many letters? Yeah, 26 letters in the alphabet. And then 10 letters or numbers. 36. Now, by the way, I am not saying that I know Morse code. But I have seen an absolute master when I was in Merchant Marine send Morse code. Because he was a ham radio enthusiast. And while we were in public ports, he could switch the antenna mast over to his ham radio clearance from the captain and just send out Morse code. Now, it sounded like a song, like a techno song, only think Moby fast beats. And the other guy could listen. And like he said, an expert at Morse code doesn't keep the message here. They prep the message by writing it out first. So they don't have to think about what they're sending. They just have to look and read and use the symbols. That's the major thing. It's also why when somebody's receiving and they're listening, they're not thinking about like in movies, they always get it wrong. And they're like, oh, that's this, that's that. No, somebody that actually knows Morse code is going to be sitting there with a pencil and paper. And, okay, that's a W. That's a L, K, U, P, 2, STAIRS. What is the hell that? Oh, walk up 2 stairs. That's all they're doing. They're not really paying attention to the message, even though they always show that. I said I don't know Morse code. What'd you do? Google it, or do you actually know Morse code? And what's with the dash or the Oh my God. No, more. No. Why can't I paste? I copied. No, I don't. I want it to go the other way. More. There we go. You're hungry? And you forgot the I. You just did hungry. No, that was perfect. That's beautiful for making me do that. I love it. It just says hungry. But again, I speak typos, so. See, I understand the concepts of these things. So, okay, so that dash would have to be the break in the word. Oh, it's probably because I missed the 2 first ones. XO, that was probably me. I missed the first 2 dots, which is probably I. The 2 long dashes, which is M. 4 H, you get the idea. And hello, XO. So actually, that's my fault. I didn't grab all of your message. You're late for a very important date. Like, you're literally getting here right before I go to on break, dude. Really? I was not going to say anything. But that was where my brain went to. That's why I actually paused for a second and said, you're late for a very important date. Follow the white rabbit. Follow the white rabbit, Neo. No, not yet. Oh, but you've been trying. Sorry, this is like literally one of my favorite emotes right now. I made it, so it's funny, but still, it's one of my favorites. And then the rolling one, which I still want to try and fix the proportions of. Like, why did it squish? Hey, Ghost with the mini host. Yeah, I'm not sure if people are going to be mad at me for replacing the GG with, the stable version of it, but still. With this version. Oh. But it still squished the face, and I don't like how it squished it, and I don't know how to do that. But hello, Ghost. Yes, be cool. Right, I'm trying to do some more. Oh, hi, Andy. What is it with people showing up right as I'm getting ready to go to break? I just thought GF was something I didn't understand, but I just assumed that it was a good thing. You know, like, love the emotes. Great fuckers, for real. Oh, you're fine. Dude, I don't get the alerts for Discord until I end stream. Like, I end stream and it'll tell me, you know, the bot, but it's Discord's problem. Discord has literally said this, hey, at this time he went live, and it's like, then why are you just notifying me now? Like, this is Discord. Right? Well, and that's one of the other reasons why I started doing the YouTube stuff. Is so if people are to subscribe to me over there, I generally will have the YouTube notifies you like a half hour early. Oh, that's funny. Well, no, see, okay, Andy, what they're trying to do is actually build up more job for them because they're ghost hunters. So they're going out and making ghosts so they can hunt them in the next year. Oh, I do that all day long. Ghost pepper stuff, no problem. My buddy literally found ghost pepper concentrate crystals. That's gonna haunt his butt. And we were doing a challenge. So this was just me and my buddies. We all dipped it into the ghost pepper concentrate on a toothpick, and each one of us put it in our mouth. Last one with it in their mouth won. Bragging rights. I mean, there was literally nothing writing on it. But yeah, I won. Yes. Literally everybody within the first 10 minutes, if not more. I mean, I don't really remember. 10, 15 minutes. No, it couldn't have been that long. 5-10 minutes. Actually, again, I don't think it was that long. All I know is an hour later, I'm still sitting there with it. And I finally asked the guy that challenged us all, I was like, hey, do I need to take this out now? Hey, I'm not joking. So when I get heartburn, this is what I use to fix it. Literally take Tabasco. And I drink it. And yeah, it's a little warm. Yes, those scorpion peppers were really good. But you have to cut them with some kind of fat. If you don't, the flavor doesn't come through. So when I mixed them with mayo, you have been a fool? Why have you been a fool? Okay, well, normally I get heartburn from drinking too much milk. This burns it up. Holy crap, is YouTube that behind? No, it's just... Okay, never mind. And I probably drank about a shot of it. I don't know. I didn't pay attention to how much was actually there to begin with. See, That's the funny part. My oldest tried to eat like I do. She literally gave herself acid reflux trying to eat like I do. Like, that's how bad it was. Yeah. Yeah, when I make ramen, I literally call it red ramen. There's black pepper, white pepper, red pepper flake, cayenne. Oh, wait, what? What did I miss? Oh, that's nice. Congrats, Andy. What else do I put in there? Sriracha. You know, basically everything hot I have. I've done horseradish, everything like that. People literally can't eat it like I do. There is no explanation for why I can't. I don't know anything about Pokemon. I'm just going to say, hey, you beat 2 gyms. I don't know what gym did to you, but hey, you beat 2 of them. I'm happy for you. They also spare their names weird. Maybe that's why you beat them up. Weird names. But the ad's really going to go on if I don't go. So I'll be right back shortly. 5 minutes. Hit the bodies. And I'm back. I hope you all are still here, enjoying the craziness. And I realize, I drank the Tabasco right before I took a break, so you might think I'm like faking you out, but hey, whatever. Just a ghost of ourselves. Ooh, spooky noises. Right there. Oh, and speaking of that, I'll sniff them out. You know what's funny, Ghost? I think I figured out why you like feet so much. Because your average ghost doesn't have them. You're just jealous about others having something you don't have. That literally just hit me. It's not a sexual thing. You're just jealous. I think it was you putting "I'll sniff them out." It could be both. You're right. Oh my. Oh, excuse me. But, anyway, Friday plans have changed. Ghost and I said we were going to be playing Hightail. We're going to be playing DBD now. And, but. No. See, I'm sorry, Ninetales. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. The ketchup is probably Ben. So, I mean, Ghost has probably been, outsourcing his light work. Sorry, I couldn't help but make the joke. Someone's still licking them. Who cares? I don't know, man. See, the way I see it, and this is me, I don't really understand the foot thing. Because one, why would I want somebody licking something and then, kissing me? That like, I'm not going to lick my own feet. So why am I going to let somebody else do it and then kiss me? I know what I've stepped in every day. I don't care how clean I make those things. But this could just be a me thing. There's quite a few things out there that I don't quite understand, but that's okay. I'm not shaming. I'm saying this is for me. Oh, I can be okay with it. But it's just not my kink. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I don't think I really have like a kink, so to speak, other than intelligent people. I have to be able to have a conversation with you. No, probably. I have to be like, sure, I can sit there and look at movie starlets and it's like, oh yeah, she's cute. But the other half of me basically goes, but can I have a conversation? Can I talk to this person at a reasonable level? I don't care how physically attractive you are. I have to be able to converse with you. Like, I don't think you guys understand that I converse at a level here that I don't converse. Well, Jade understands. I actually try to stay on a reasonable topic here. Talking with me in real life, I can bounce from here. You may not understand where I'm going with it until I bring it back around. That's something that I think a lot of people don't understand, is that I don't want to say dumb it down. I try to streamline my conversations here. because I only have 2 hours. Music taste. Oh, I have dark humor too. I'm just in a public facing place, so I'm not going to use the majority of my dark humor. I mean, I can be pretty bad. Like, just to give you a taste. Now, this was a horrible situation for my buddy. I didn't really give a crap. My buddy was over at my place. We're joking, we're having fun, and he gets a phone call and he looks so stunned. And I'm like, is it your grandpa? Did the old bastard finally die? That was literally the phone call in which his grandpa died. Well, I just gave you a hint at my dark humor. I still laughed because of the absurdity of the situation. Here I am making a joke that I didn't think was actually true, and it ended up being true, and I still laughed about it. Because it was like a movie scenario. Not because I actually thought it was funny that his grandpa died, don't get me wrong. It's the fact that I said that joke because I thought he was just getting some kind of other horrible news and not... Right? See, I was laughing at the absurdity of the situation, not at the fact that his grandpa actually died. But that's kind of how my humor goes. I will say the absolute wrong thing at the absolute wrong time and still laugh about it, even though it probably isn't a laughing matter. Right? Like what is the odds of that? But music taste, I don't really care because I can listen to anything. If you listen to the music that I make, obviously I can listen to anything. Music is music to me. I like what I like, and it doesn't really matter the genre or whatnot. My wife is a gamer, like me, but we're not addicted to gaming. I mean, I guess some people might think I'm addicted to gaming. That's their problem, not mine. Like when I'm off stream, I play video games. When I'm on stream, I'll play video games. But mostly, I play video games to pass the time. Not really, like if I have nothing better to do, I'm playing a video game. Or I'm listening to, or doing both, listening to a YouTube. Oh, did I tell you guys I finally watched They Live? I think I mentioned it. Very appropriate movie right now, if you really want to get down to it. Basic gist of it is that, oh, well, my wife and I don't have that problem. Put it that way. Like, we will literally pause our games and talk to each other and then go back. I really enjoyed it. I went in cold. Like, I've never watched it. I've seen clips. And everybody knows the most popular movie line from it. I'm here to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of bubble gum. You know, that's where that came from. And honestly, on the societal critique, it's just as valid today as it was back then. Never heard that one before? Really? Well, it was very popular in my day, which is 10 years, 15 years ahead of yours, if I remember correctly. But I really enjoyed it. You have a wonderful one, XO. Glad you were here for the time you were here. Well, Andy, it literally was before your time. It came out in '88. But here's the funny thing that I think a lot of people really need to understand. The same people that John Carpenter was critiquing in that movie, most of them are still in power now. Like, people don't realize that we've been in Yes. Have a wonderful night, Ecto. Glad you were here. Meow. Come here. Yes, come here. No. Do that. You know I'm on cam. She won't let me pick her up. Just won't let me while on cam. She lets me do it other times, but not while I'm on cam. I don't know how she knows. Like, she won't stay in a spot. Like, if I find a spot where I can put the camera so you guys can see her in the background, she stops using it. She'll move to a different spot. So annoying. Right? I've been able to pick her up and get her on camera a couple of times. And I think the wife has done it once. So if you guys were here for that stream, you've actually seen my wife. But yeah, They Live, very good movie. One of the things, and I will explain. Right. Well, this was a long time ago. I don't know. I mean, the videos are still up somewhere on YouTube. Bruno. Well, Bruno was the first of his cats that I saw. And I'd never met Bug before. And I've been watching Ghost for over a year now. So that was the first time I ever saw Bug. Yeah, Tyga and Sage are chronic now, but they didn't used to be. I think, well, I was going to say XO could attest to that, but Infinite might be able to attest to that Tyga and Sage being on are fairly recent. Yeah, I didn't know Bug either. To be perfectly honest, didn't even know Bagheera existed. I know he has 6 cats and there's 2 dogs. Or 3 dogs, which I've never once seen the dogs. But there's also, I mean, it sounds like a lot, but they're not all his. He has roommates. So, I mean, it's like they all have their own pets. But they're also house pets. So, figure that one out. But, I will say that if you go to watch They Live, there is a theme that if you see it without context or without understanding the reason why they did it, you might think that it's a little annoying. Come on. Yeah. You're being such a butt. But so there's like this 6-minute fight scene. And to give you an idea, if you've watched The Matrix was like 2.5 minutes in the iconic bank shootout that seemed to take so long. So 6 minutes for just 2 guys beating the crap out of each other seemed long. But it was an allegory for trying. Thought you became a ghost. It was an allegory for trying to convince your friend of something. Like when you try to talk somebody into understanding, and it can be this long drawn out thing, which was the whole point, just to give it. Well, okay, it's one thing in a cartoon, in an anime. What's up, Simply? Welcome in. It's another thing to see it in a movie, and we're not talking like fast action or anything like this. This is literally two guys having a alleyway brawl. Sorry, we're talking about They Live simply. He arrived. I has. Apparently he was playing Halo. Yeah, it is a great film. But I think with modern audiences, they might not understand the alleyway fight scene. Obey, consume, and procreate. Like, I mean, and like I was saying simply, it's just as poignant today as it was back then, because John Carpenter was calling out the yuppies who are still in power today. Remember, we have the oldest friggin' Congress, Senate, presidents we've had ever. I actually bought it on YouTube. It was free on YouTube. I went to go watch it, and it had to be like literally that day they took it off for free. And I was on the phone with the wife at the time, and I'm like, son of a gun. They took off the movie I was going to watch. She's like, oh, what were you going to watch? Well, I told her, and she's like, well, I've heard of that, and it's John Carpenter, so it's got to be good. I'm like, yeah. She goes, buy it. I'm like, okay. But yeah, it's a damn good movie. I will say that. Well, look, she's the one that makes most of the money. So I don't make purchases without talking to her first, unless it's my money from Twitch. Oh, I did. I definitely thanked my wife. But I'm just saying that the alleyway fight scene, if you don't understand that it's an allegory for trying to get an idea through somebody that is holding the currently wrong idea, and I don't mean like wrong think, like you're really trying to take the blinders off somebody argument. That alleyway fight scene of 6 minutes is an allegory for trying to convince your friend to basically, hey, you know that girlfriend you're with that basically has cut you off from everybody? Yeah, you need to lose her. No, I don't. Like, she's taking advantage of you. I mean, I've literally seen her cheating. No, she hasn't. You know, that kind of thing. And I'm not just trying to pick on women. I'm just trying to come up with because guys do the same crap. So I'm not trying to use a gender bias here. I don't really care what gender it is. I mean, guys do the same damn thing. Yes. Right? You know, and that's the thing is that all he asked his friend, see, and that's the funny thing. The whole fight is over just, hey, put these glasses on. And that's why it was so kind of absurd. And I really think They Live got the Idiocracy treatment. Because in the theaters, it made a bunch of money. Like, people loved the movie. Exactly. But the critics hated the movie. And they lambasted it, and they did this. And it's really because the critics were who John Carpenter was calling out. Now, keep in mind that this was literally just shortly after he's literally the movie darling. Sorry, I used literally a little bit too much. Because of The Thing. So I think that came out in 85, 84. Simply might know when The Thing came out. Yes, literally. I'm sorry. Right. Like, literally, oh my. Don't you hate it when certain words get stuck? Yeah, 84. I knew it was like 85, 84. And this came out in 88. So, I mean, his previous movie was a huge deal. Big deal. And I hate to, 82, even earlier. And that's the remake of his original, right? Because the original came out in like 70 something. Because John Carpenter actually made The Thing twice. One was a remake of his own movie. Yeah, I can't remember exactly. What I mean is that when you get a word stuck, like me overusing literally, where you keep using it even though you know you're using it absurdly. Well, okay, I do that too. This is the dysrambulator. But it's a dang good movie. He was calling out things that... Oh, really? I would have swore he remade his own movie. Maybe I'm thinking of... Yes. Okay. I don't know. I thought that I would have swore that... I don't know. Anyway. But the thing... What I'm talking about is that with They Live, he was calling out the current... Just, unless I'm not the only one that's heard of him remaking the thing. If it's just a personal one, I don't worry about. The effects thingy, yes. Well, right. But with They Live, he's calling out the yuppies. And that's fine. I mean, I'm not saying, I'm not trying to say that you're wrong and I'm right. I'm probably wrong. I may be thinking of a different movie. Wait, what? Now we're okay. I was like, are you making fun of me or is that okay? Yeah. All right. You don't know how many times that's happened to me though, where somebody sits there and says this, like, oh, he's being good. That was a good one. I like it. It got me off guard. But it's the same class of yuppies that are in power today, because I mean, think about it. Donald Trump, still in power. You look at a lot of these senators, congressmen, they're still in power. Bill Gates was rising to power in '88. Still in power. We have the same people. I mean, this is why, in my personal feelings, the last 20 years has literally felt like Groundhog's Day, other than I've had kids and my life has changed. Otherwise, everything else outside of really hasn't changed. Like, the music sounds the same to me. Maybe I'm getting old. Like, I can't really define the genre. Like, you can go 70s music, you know what it is. 60s music, 80s music, 90s music, 2000s music. Yep. 2020s music. Still pretty much the same. And the only thing I can figure is that it's the same people in power. They're the ones halting the needle. Like, we're not allowed to go into the future. I mean, what was it? Blade Runner was supposed to take place. The original Blade Runner was supposed to take place in 2000 something. What does that bring up? You said you weren't going to prank anybody today, Andy. That was good. That was good. Got him. No, I got Rick meowed. I'm serious. It was mixed with a cat video. Yes, it was a Rickroll though. Oh, I feel bad. Normally I'm better than this. Oh, it is an acceptable Rickroll. Absolutely. Oh, I'm not mad. I think it's funny. One, now I got to find that video and I got to send it to some of my friends just because. That's still funny. I can't even be mildly upset. I can't even fake it because that was funny. I knew something was up. Please do. Because I'll pull pranks any day. I don't need to wait for April 1st. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's so hilarious to look at movies from the 80s and see that we're back in the 80s again. Like maybe this is why, we're looking towards the 80s, because we have the same, it's all happening again. People caring more about money than anything else, when money is what's getting us into all these trouble. And it's pissing me off. It's not that Rickroll. That's not what was pissing me off. It's that we're stuck on this treadmill. We're stuck. I mean, I just want people to be happy, people to have what they need. And that's really it. And we have the technology to do that. We literally have the ability to feed and house everyone in the United States that currently is in the United States. Right. Well, and to me, I don't even really think it's repeating itself so much as that needle has been held at 88, for lack of a better term. Maybe Back to the Future called it. Maybe 88 wasn't the speed. It was just the year that we were going to be stuck at. We've been stuck at that rapacious capitalism for, oh my God, 40 years. I mean, I think that's why seeing the moon land, seeing that we're going to the moon again, that felt good. That's hope. That's hoping that something, because the last time we had a vibrant space culture, technology blew up. And I don't mean in a bad way. I mean, we actually got a whole bunch of new technology because that's what was needed to get us to space. Like I said, the internet, you can directly link it to somebody trying to solve a problem with the space race, trying to communicate between Cape Canaveral and Houston and make sure that everything was right. Russia and China have been doing things on the moon for quite a while. Well, I'm not so sure about Russia, but I know China did. I know that they were planning on going to the moon and stuff like that, and I think they actually did. I think they did a pass by the dark side of the moon. They went to the backside. They wanted to see the moon's moon. And right. Well, that's the thing is, we stopped, and thank you. I didn't get, hit the mute button quick enough. And we stagnated in our culture, our space culture. Americans in power seem to do it for competition, because that's also how we got SpaceX, was because somebody put up what they called the X Prize, which was a race for citizen, to civilian era of space travel. It took almost 20 years, but, we finally got a decent space program of a civilian side. Even though they say NASA's civilian, not really. In fact, it's largely military based, which we don't even know what's up there. Like, really, I think a lot of people need to understand that the military has been putting stuff in space for a long time, and we don't know what it is. I mean, there's an ancient movie to you guys. Basically. But it's called Spies Like Us. And it's all based on, Ronald Reagan's, Space Defense, Initiative, SDI, but everybody called Star Wars program. Then you had, what's his name? Famous astronomer Carl Sagan, which helped make SETI, which was the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. And then they promptly ignore every interesting signal we've ever got. Oh, I hate TIEs too, so, I'm all for TIE fighting. I feel like I'm being choked. But yes, I know what you mean, Jade. I would love to have a TIE fighter. I was going to say, I'd rather have an X-Wing, but TIE fighter would be... I'd take a TIE fighter. Although, actually, of all the... the monoliths and the face on the moon, which monoliths? You mean like the weird structures that we've thought we've seen on the moon? Let alone, you know, the face. Okay. There's two ways to go about it, because I've seen a lot of info. I'm wondering if... So, to be perfectly honest, there is a window in time from the time that mankind started the space race to actually being able to detect what's going on in space. This is prior to landing on the moon. But that is not to say that some civilian group of a lot of money didn't make their own space fleet or their own spaceship. I think there's a couple of sci-fi shows that play with the idea of what's called a breakout civilization, where they decided to just take off into space, and we might actually have a generational space fleet out there somewhere. There might be basically the equivalent of a fallout shelter, only it's in a spaceship. Somewhere in space now. I mean, they probably could have reached Jupiter and probably hitting their moons with the technology we had at the time. The likelihood of that is super low, but it's not zero. And that's the thing that really disturbs me. So they could have stopped on the moon for a short time, especially with our technology at the time. We didn't have a real good resolution. I mean, remember, this time we still thought there were canals on Mars. And that resolution didn't come in until mid to late 80s, to where we stopped seeing the canals and actually stopped proper seeing what was going on. Which I'm still not convinced there wasn't canals on Mars. That, you know, I mean, they have dust storms. Maybe something ruined them. Maybe we literally missed Mars civilization, like true proof that there was a Mars civilization, by a 15-year window of where there was a massive dust storm and it just destroyed the canal, so we don't actually have the proof. Again, could have been a breakout civilization, you know, that landed on Mars. Maybe we already have a colony underneath Mars. People will talk about the door, the face, you know, various structures on Mars that are very similar to what we see on the moon. Is that because having a lower gravity than Earth and a lower atmosphere than Earth makes it more likely to make structures that look man-made but aren't really? I am. Do you really think being told that there's, you know, a breakthrough civilization, breakout civilization, I think is what it's called, that's actually already colonizing space? You know, and maybe they actually met the little green men of Mars, and maybe they took them even further. Who knows? Maybe that's why the canals got disappeared, is because the breakout civilization picked up the guys from Mars and they went off to Orion. I don't know. My thought is that why would people freak out if we actually found out there's life out there, whether we put it out there or not? Like, why would it really matter? Why would we have to hide it? I can tell you why. Because the people in power would lose power. That's who's not ready for it. The elites aren't ready for it. The people who have power and money, they're not ready for it. Us plebes, it wouldn't even change our lives other than, oh, wow, there's actually, you know, civilizations out there. Cool. Hell, 90% of us already think that there's life out there. The likelihood of it actually visiting here is a lot less, but not zero. You know, it's like, because, you know, to me, the most common is, why would they come here? I don't know. They're alien thoughts. I can't explain their thoughts. Well, as one of my favorite childhood movies, Contact, says, it would be an awful waste of space if there was nothing out there. And I don't care what God you believe in, or whether it's a dog, I don't care. Do you really think the creator of this expanse that we see, whoever that may be, would stop? Unconfirmed, but highly likely. I mean, let alone, I don't know how many of you have actually been paying attention, but there's been a lot of meteors coming through the atmosphere recently. And we're talking like bright fireball type meteors. You can see from the day. Some of them are really slow moving and they really shouldn't be. Some of them have like, hey, what's up, Green Jeans? Welcome in, buddy. Everybody over here will say hi in a second, I'm pretty sure. Potentially, yes. But see, from what I've been researching, yeah, I told you everybody was going to say hi. What I've been researching is that, oh, and Andy, I'm sorry, does not say hi. Andy says, what's up? I did my best impression of that annoying sound. Yeah, Pennsylvania, but there was also one in the Puget Sound area. So, see, that's what I'm saying is there's been like 2 or 3 over Texas, some over PA, some over the Puget Sound. If I remember right, since just the beginning of the year, there's been 17 or 18 in the US alone, and I think it was something like 27 worldwide. This is almost, I think it's 5 years worth of meteors, and we're not in the Pleiades, we're not in the Perseids, these other meteor showers. Like, these shouldn't be happening right now. I don't honestly know what it is. I'm not trying to say it's aliens. I have no idea. What I do know is that this is more meteor activity than we've seen in a long time, especially since now, this might be just a cosmic coincidence, but it coincides with 6, I think is the total now, scientists linked to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the general that went missing, and people who work with, new space stuff, all going missing since like the beginning of the year. Like, this coincides with a bunch of people gone missing. People that strategically have left everything that could be used to track them. At least 2 of them have done this. One lady was no more than 30 feet from her friends walking in New Mexico, if I remember correctly. May have been Arizona. Don't quote me on it. She was walking with her friends on a hike. 30 feet away, the friend looked back, he waves, and then the person's gone. That was the last time she was ever seen. Another lady mysteriously just decides to not go to work, get a Subway sandwich for her kid, who was at work, leave all of her stuff behind, and the last potential view of her was getting in a pickup that nobody knows who it was, while she was walking down the road. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of mankind who are trying to boldly go where no one has gone before us. Yeah, I mean, this is all literally within this year. One guy was an astronomer out, which is really kind of funny. So, not really, but one was an astronomer who had moved way out in the back end of California. So he was almost on the border with Arizona. So it was Arizona that the lady that took the hike went missing from. Because it was the general that left from New Mexico, or disappeared from New Mexico, and one of the other people from New Mexico. But one was an astronomer that in February, he had a person trespassing on his property. He called the cops, got him there in time to pick the guy up, but the guy had a weapon, blah, blah, blah. And he, guy's safe. I think it was like a week or 2 weeks later, the guy, for some reason, was let out of prison on a not prison. The judge of his case just says, charges dismissed for some weird statute. And less than a week later, the guy's back at this guy's front porch and blows them away. Like, this guy was determined to come out to this guy's property and take care of a problem. Like, it doesn't make sense what happened. Like, I don't care who you are. If I was the county prosecutor, I would hold that judge on charges of aiding and abetting minimum. I think we need to start holding judges responsible when they just decide to let somebody go. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, because some of this stuff is getting really weird. Or at least have a higher burden of proof, or have a second opinion judge where, the prosecutor or the defendant, either side, can go, hey, I think this judge is wrong. Can I get a second opinion before any of this else rolls down? We're not even talking a, what is it called when you go to court? Appeal. I think we need to have a judicial review, not a retrial, of the case before everything's finalized. I think it needs to be seen by at least one other judge that's outside of the county, preferably outside of the state. Just on whether or not, hey, I think this one's showing favoritism. Somebody that is disconnected. Could that be used against people? Yes. I am aware. I'm aware that it could also be used for corruption and stuff like that. Absolutely. But what more can you do? What more can be done? Just a judicial review. Make sure that everything's happening the way it's supposed to. And I don't think, I know I said that maybe the prosecutor or the defending attorney should have to call it up. It's like, no, I think it just should be reviewed. There should be like a circuit court judge that's whole job is to, or not one, but they have like these roving nurses do the same thing with roving judges, where you don't know where you're going to go next. It's like a lottery, so you can't be pushed into one way or another, but just have them review it. But that's a side note. I'm saying that with all these disappearances, with everything else, there's more to the story. There's more going on. I mean, we had a friggin' Air Force general disappear. And it doesn't seem really, what's the lady's name? Guthrie. Her mom got more press and attention than this general. This general walked away and nobody's looking for him. Where's the FBI? This is somebody that has national secrets, even if they're old. Where's the FBI? The other lady that was out on a hike and disappeared, she worked on specialized friggin' alloys directly underneath this general and disappeared. I think it was called Mandalloy. And she disappears. I really want to know what's going on, and nobody else seems to be, other than citizen journalists on YouTube. But your regular journalists, they don't give a crap. Sorry, it was so quiet and I don't have my headphones on. I'm literally listening to my cat snore. I mean, it's quiet, but I hear it. It's hilarious. But, I mean, this stuff is just getting crazy. Yes, she is adorable. Just look pretty for the camera. Yeah. Look pretty. I know. I woke you up and everything. I'm a big meanie. Yes, she is. Yes, she is. Okay, you've had enough? Taking you up. She is a beautiful fluff ball. Thank you, Ghost. No, I was getting my cat. But yes, I am rather paranoid. You know that, Green Jeans. But that mostly comes from working security for so long. You know, that's why I heard the cat. It's not like she was super loud either. I just heard her and it's like, what is that noise behind me? See, I'm blocking too much light that way. You can just see her face at the bottom. Well, on my side, right-hand corner. I don't know if on your side it's left-hand. Yeah, you can just see her. But if I'm standing here, it's in the shadows. And it's hilarious. Yeah. Like I have to move out of the light and then come back in, she's gone. You can just see her in the shadows if you're, yeah, I can't move to where you can see her. It's hilarious. Yeah, you can just barely kind of see her. If you know what you're looking for, you can see her back there. But yeah, with all this, you know, and don't forget that Trump recently ordered some kind of disclosure, which we haven't really understand what's going on with that. Like what really that's going to mean. But the fact that quite a few of these people have been asked to testify at this disclosure thing that Trump's asked for. And they're disappearing. Like this is either some huge cosmic coincidence that we're getting more fireballs in the sky, meteors, whatever. High level space scientists, space program scientists are disappearing. We are launching a mission to the moon, which I hadn't even heard of, which I woke up this morning, looked at YouTube, and they're like, oh yeah, NASA's going to launch something to the moon. How have not somebody said this? Like, this is the first time we've gone back to the moon, I think, in my lifetime. You know, and that's what blows me away. Can you guys see my tattoo better now? See, angle it around. There's my tattoo, if you can see it properly. I know somebody was asking. Right, simply publicly. Yeah, I kind of designed it, but my yeah, you were asking. That's right. I knew somebody was asking. Right, like back 15, 20 years ago, this would have been a big deal. News cycle would have been bringing it up, especially since there's this kind of unpopular war going on. You kind of want to distract people. You know, news was used to do that. And this is why, you know, it's like, yeah, I think Trump's not exactly the brightest president we've ever had, and that's saying something. But I also don't think he's the worst thing we've ever had, which I know a lot of people would disagree with me. I just think he's like any other president. It more comes down to, you know, what's behind him. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that we have this news cycle that pushes these narratives in ways that it's obvious that there's some kind of agenda, but it's really hard. Okay, Nixon actually wasn't as bad as people say. There was a lot to say about Nixon, what he did do. I mean, the only thing he ever did wrong was something that I'm pretty sure every president before and since has been doing, trying to dig up dirt on his friggin', other. Actually, me personally, I think the worst president we've ever had, at least in recent memory, Gerald freaking Ford. Not Nixon. Ford was worse than Nixon by a landslide. And worse than Trump. That's what I mean when I say I don't think Trump was one of the worst. Look up actually what Gerald Ford did. I mean, he kept us in Vietnam. He was just as sexually charged, if not worse than Trump. And just as uncaring for what anybody said or wanted, because he didn't have to worry about getting reelected. Yeah, there's a lot there. I mean, yeah, because Ford took over for Kennedy. Which, I mean, there's good evidence that he may have understood a lot more of what happened to Kennedy than the average person, and that's why he got away with stuff. There's even a scene when he's being sworn in and the smirk he gives, and that's on official tapes. Long before AI could do it that good. There's a smirk he gives looking back at friggin' Jackie Kennedy. Like, it's creepy, in my personal opinion. So, I mean, I'm not trying to say that, trust me, I am no Trump defender. I think the guy's a big friggin' moron. Absolutely big friggin' moron, but not the worst moron we've ever had. And I'm more afraid of impeaching him and kicking him out like we did Nixon, because then we get JD Vance. And in my personal opinion, if you think Trump's bad, JD Vance is a mouthpiece for Peter Thiel. The guy that literally is using supervillain names for his company. Sorry, not supervillain names, but ultimate evil names for his company. And trying to... Yeah, anyway, sorry, I got way off topic. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of Trump, but I'm definitely not a fan of his second in command. And I'm also not a fan of how much we've seen of his second in command, more so than... I can't argue with you, Nine Tails, but I am not going to advocate it. One, I never advocate for violence. Violence never served anything any good. It only served for revenge in the future. But I do think we do need a much younger. I think the old dogs need to give over the reins of power and give it up. I think people that are, more interested in the people's well-being. Because I don't care what side you're on, Republican or Democrat. Neither have done any good for a long time. Did it work for the French? Might want to know your history a little bit more, Nine Tails. Sure, it got rid of the ruling class, but it didn't get rid of the corruption. Because that's the problem. When you do something like that, term limits aren't going to solve anything. Because we have a good case. Yeah, the reign of terror. We have good cases that term limits have actually impeded progress. Have destroyed progress. And have made it more easily to corrupt people because you have term limits. Do you want to know what the perfect government is, statistically speaking? Benevolent dictatorship. The only problem with the benevolent dictatorship is that as soon as the benevolent dictator leaves, so does everything that he stood for. Within 2 generations, everything's gone. So humanity doesn't take well to being dictated to. But the whole idea is that you have to have somebody that cares and is actually out for your best interests. That's the important part. And we have way too much ability to corrupt our own government right now. I don't care whether you believe in capitalism, socialism, because the only reason why capitalism, socialism, communism doesn't work is because humankind is involved. I hate to say it, I'm one of the few people that actually kind of look forward to an AI overlord as long as it's not being dictated to by the corporations. You don't have to threaten their life, Ninetales. In fact, it's more effective if you threaten their paycheck. And I'm not talking about the public one. You really want to get at these people. It's not through violence. It's through cash and power. It's through attention. Because really that's what we have right now is an attention economy. Hi, I'm part of it. I'm trying to get your attention to actually think clearly, not with rage and anger. Not with revenge in mind, because that's really what happens. That's why these things never work out. That's why revolutions eventually don't work out, because all you're replacing the corruption with just new corruption. Because all these people care about is getting back what's theirs, not doing right by everyone involved. Never once has the revolution actually been about true justice. Even the American. All we had back then was in the American Revolution was business owners that wanted to be in charge. That was it. These aren't people to look up to. They're not perfect people. They're not blah, blah, blah. They did their best, but they still kept the reins of power. They talked about giving the reins of power, all men created equal, but yet we still had slaves. We still had people that were worth more than others. And I don't mean monetarily wise. There were lives that were worth more than others. They still lived behind their protected mansions and everything and sent their men into battle. This isn't... No. Ninetales, I'm older than you. By almost 10 years, if I remember right, if not more. I know how you feel. I've been talking about stuff like this for 20 years. 20 years of quit looking at party and start looking at what they do. It doesn't matter if they're Democrat. It doesn't matter if they're Republican. It matters what they do. Pay attention. Learn. Right? No, and I get it. I'm tired of the BS too. You have a good night, Jade. Yeah, Jade's heard all this before. Let's be honest. I'm sick and tired of it too, man. I don't fault you on it. I'm just saying I'm sick and tired of it. I agree. But violence isn't going to solve anything. Getting revenge isn't going to solve anything. True justice is the only thing that's going to solve it. The only problem is that everybody says justice is subjective. I think that's a lie. I think that's a lie we've been told because justice has never been properly seen out. I think that the only true justice is to have somebody that is an uninterested third party, true uninterested third party, mete out the justice. What America quotes and quotes says, I get it. Yeah, land of confusion. That is absolutely correct, Green Jeans. We've created a land of confusion. That's really what a Republican is. Republic, not a Republican. A republic, although... But I also think Democrats are confused too. The problem is right now, the same people are in power that have always been in power. Corporations, people with money. I don't care if they're called a king. I don't care what all. But what they do is ensure their continuance. Yes. Land of ignorance and illiteracy. Yes, that is what they are creating. We were on the track to have one of the smartest, most well-educated groups of people in the history. And then we decided to change our education system, which makes no sense. The education system was working just fine if you wanted actual free thinkers and good people. Oh, No Child Left Behind. I remember that. Yeah, that was one of the, no child left unexploited. It was literally designed to get children to sign up for the military. It wasn't about, if it was really about No Child Left Behind, then why did schools that didn't perform as well lose funding? Shouldn't they be getting more funding? And the schools that were doing well, didn't that prove that they didn't really need more funding than what they had? Like, it was literally backwards. Yeah. No, I totally agree. Education system is broken in America, and Trump is breaking it further. There's talks of disbanding the Board of Education or the Secretary of Education position, when I think we need to actually reinforce the Secretary of Education with a whole Board of Education. The whole concept is to get rid of district education and actually have a federalized, everybody gets the same education. I don't care if you're rich district, poor district, it doesn't freaking matter. Everybody should be getting the same education. I don't care if you're from a farming community or in the middle of the city. It is bullshit that each state is allowed to mess with their education system. It is bullshit that the states can vary so wildly in education. It is one of the things that pisses me off the most. I moved around a lot as a kid. I went to 5 different high schools in 3 years. And before that, every 3 years I was moving. So I've been to several different districts. I was moving state to state. State to state, not just, a little bit here and there. And it is such BS. Well, I wouldn't base it on California. I can tell you that from my experience. I went to a California school. I think the whole system needs to be overhauled and not privatized like they're trying to do in some of these districts. Where your family gets a voucher and there's only one charter school that accepts that voucher, so your kids have to go to that school. And before anybody talks, that was actually under Biden that was happening. But it also happened under Trump. Wyoming, there is no school district that I went to that I can tell you was better or worse than any other. But I can tell you that damn sure they were different. And I know in Southern California, I could have graduated my second year. My sophomore year of high school, I could have graduated if I had just ticked a box when I was registered. Because I took hard classes my freshman year. I took college preparatory or advanced placement classes, depending on where you went, depending on what they called it. I literally had 2.5 years of college credits. Well, yeah, the whole reason why the privatization is so that these companies have peons to do the work that they're only designed to do. That's where the education tailors them to. They are only tailored to do this job. That's it. And New York has a unique education system, but I'm not sure how good it is. Because, I mean, you look at most of the kids that get to go to the acting schools or the art schools, somehow they just happen to be rich. They're the only ones that get in. But my God, they happen to have rich families. It's so amazing. But anyway, folks, I could talk about this for a whole nother hour. But I am out of snoozes for the ad. I hope you had fun. I hope I didn't bring you all down. I wasn't trying to make this a doomer stream. I was trying to be happy and talk about the hope of going back to the moon. But obviously that led to other things. And well, you know, that's what happens. And obviously I feel very strongly about the education system and how bad it is. But that's why it's so much more important to educate ourselves. Yes, I know, Infinite. Oh. But I think that is why it is so much more important to educate ourselves. To push ourselves to fill in the gaps that schools left. To stop just reading for entertainment or watching YouTube for just entertainment. I mean, yes, obviously, give yourself entertainment. But I think you also need to take time to learn. Because education system didn't do it. I don't even care if you're in college. I've been to college. College don't educate you any better than high school did. They're just glorified daycare centers. Why do you think we keep upping the idea of when a kid's brain matures? You ever wonder that it's because you keep taking the kids' choices away and not treating them like an adult? I guarantee you my brain was probably pretty mature early on because I was left to my own devices. I was a latchkey kid and I had a lot of shit I had to take care of on my own. I had choices. My parents unintentionally, because they had to work, treated me as an adult because they had no choice. So I had to teach myself. Right. But God, I handled the cat and now my allergies are acting up. Another reason why I probably need to go. Now, we keep pushing people away from well, but it made me who I am. It made me a self-starter. Self-educated. It made me, like, even in high school, I was the guy in the back reading books, not paying attention to what's going on because I already knew it. Well, and that's why I'm saying, you know, college education doesn't really matter. I'm sorry to say that to anybody that's in college. I hope you're at least studying something you enjoy because the education matters for yourself, but don't expect it to get you a job. Don't expect it to open doors for you. I'm sorry to say, unless you get into some very special courses, the likelihood is very, very small. Because the educated business world is contracting. Technical schools are expanding. You have a good night, Green Jeans. You know, stuff like that, you know, learning a trade is expanding. Did you mean really or rarely turn out to be promised? Because even in technical schools, you're correct. Those promised jobs rarely turn out to be promised. You know, and I get that. But a practical education that technical colleges will teach you will take you a lot further in life. Trust me, I know. I've been college educated, but I've also been to a technical school when I was Merchant Marine. And I will tell you that the Merchant Marine education took me a lot damn further than the college education. Even if I was a college dropout. In fact, I probably saved myself a whole ton of problems by dropping out. Again, I can talk about this forever. I'm supposed to be going. I know a lot of you have lives. I could really talk about this forever, and we know this. Put it on the list of things you guys want to ask me. You know, if you think I'm wrong, or if you think, you know, give me a list. You found out after you graduated, sadly. That is true, Green Jeans. You know, if you guys have thoughts, questions you want to ask me next Wednesday, or who knows, maybe we'll finish the video game early beer fest tonight. There you go. Yes, find something cheerful. I know what I've been talking about is kind of a downer. Find a comedy, have fun, enjoy yourself. I'm going to try and, I have a new episode of Invincible to watch. Oh, dude, Super Troopers. Right meow. Right. I haven't watched Beer Fest, but I know Super Troopers was good. I watched that one. Anyway, love you guys. Thanks for showing up. I'll be here tomorrow with the Gretlo tapes. Okay, Super Troopers was awesome. I loved it. Turn your brain off and have fun. Anyway, love you guys. Have fun. And I'll see you later. Find something fun to do. Be young, have fun, eat the rich.